Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Commute with Hopi Living in the City. Thank you for coming back. If you're new here, we are taking a ride into Central Phoenix. Once again, it's a cool 56 degrees here, and we are headed out maybe to get something for breakfast. I didn't bring anything from home for lunch or breakfast. Last night we had pizza from Fry's. Their signature brand pizza is really good. The crust is delicious, and they were like three something for a medium. And then we had some baked pork chops. I think the pork chops were from Winco. I just put some shake and bake on top of them and put them in for I think 45 minutes at 385, and that was pretty good. And we had some ice cream for dessert. So yeah, happy Friday, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. It's a little chilly up north. I hope everyone's warm. And let's see what's on the radio this morning.
But I've fallen in love with my dad's dog Gunner because he's just such a. For myself personally, as a fiscal conservative, I am very happy when there are conversations about more transparency, more efficiency. But to suggest that we have to shut down the entire system in order for that to take place is not only ludicrous, it's incredibly dangerous. And I would say unfair because it happened literally overnight without warning.
Eugene Cho is president of Red for the World. Eugene, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
The U.S. Constitution assigns Congress the job of deciding how to spend taxpayer money. In the last couple of weeks, President Trump and Elon Musk have effectively grabbed the legislative branch's power of the purse through executive action. As NPR congressional correspondent Deirdre Walsh reports, so far, Republicans on Capitol Hill are not putting up a fight.
House Speaker Mike Johnson insists he's a fierce defender of Congress's Article I authority to steer where federal dollars go. But when it comes to President Trump's recent actions,
the executive branch of government in our system has the right to evaluate how executive branch agencies are operating.
A week before Elon Musk and his government efficiency unit known as DOGE moved to shutter the foreign aid agency USAID, Trump's Office of Management and Budget team directed a pause on all federal grants. Lawmakers fielded calls from constituents worried that daycare programs, Meals on Wheels, and other community programs would stop operating. A few Republicans publicly voiced concerns about the freeze, but the Speaker downplayed the effort.
I think this is something that the American people will approve of. I think they want us to be good stewards of the precious treasure of the American taxpayer.
Shortly after the Speaker's remarks, a federal court shut down the Trump administration's pause on grants. Democrats say both executive moves are illegal. NPR asked the number 2 Senate Republican John Barrasso if he thinks Trump and DOGE are overstepping congressional authority.
No, I don't. I think that the administration has every right to demand accountability and transparency in all these programs.
North Carolina Republican Tom Tillis says he believes an executive unilaterally shutting down USAID does step on the separation of powers.
I think that runs afoul of the Constitution in the strictest sense.
But he argued that former President Joe Biden took similar steps and shrugged about what's happening in the early days of the Trump administration.
It's not uncommon for presidents to flex a little bit on where they can spend and where they can stop spending.
And he says this dynamic is not new.
There's a lot of people in the past that conveyed that power over to a Democrat president or Republican president, and they're pushing the envelopes of what that power looks like. It's a normal part of a transition.
But one new wrinkle in this power struggle between two branches is Musk. The richest man in the world is now a government employee with unprecedented influence. Senator Susan Collins, who chairs the panel that decides how much money federal agencies get, said the abrupt decision to fold USAID into the State Department sidestepped Congress's role.
The law is very specific
that if there's going to be a reorganization of USAID, that Congress has to be informed 15 days in advance. Doge targeting foreign aid as its first place to cut was not a big political problem for Republicans. They say Americans are skeptical about how much is being spent overseas. Another Republican on the committee in charge of spending, Arkansas Senator John Bozeman, admits lawmakers don't know the details yet about Musk's plans across federal agencies.
I don't think we know exactly what he is doing right now.
But soon the debate will be much broader and involve programs Republicans lobbied for that help their own constituents. On March 14th, all federal agencies will run out of money unless Congress passes a new funding bill. It's unclear what the president and Musk will want in that legislation, but so far, most Republicans aren't willing to get crosswise with them, even if it means ceding their own power. Deirdre Walsh, NPR News, the Capitol.
Offer for your home? Go to homes2x.com. Homes2x.com.
Gatos, and we're going to give you our Super Bowl predictions. Plus, we'll tell you why you shouldn't attend a Super Bowl party. Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos. We start at 4.
It's 5:42 now on Arizona's Morning News. Jim Sharp along with LaDonna Harvey from the KTAR Business Center. Phoenix is ranked the 11th largest office-to-apartment conversion city in the nation. That's according to a study from Brett Cafe that reports 1,600 office units have been converted to will be converted to residential space in 2025. That is a 19% increase year over year. New York, by the way, leading in converted spaces with 8,000 units.
Stock futures are a little changed. Investors are bracing for the payrolls report. We are up about 24 on the Dow, down 1 on the S&P, down 12 on the NASDAQ. For more money news, visit the Business Center at ktar.com.
KTAR News Flash. At 5:43, this is what you need to know right now. Governor Katie Hobbs says she welcomes additional troops on our southern border, adding she had requested more resources. President Trump just sent 500 Army personnel to the border after deploying 1,500 shortly after his inauguration.
Arizona's Attorney General fighting for patients who need a widely used asthma medication. AG Chris Mays says pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline deliberately executed a scheme to avoid paying additional rebates to Medicaid for its popular asthma drug, Flovent.
Tens of millions of people are expected to watch the Super Bowl on Sunday between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Chiefs are looking to win a record third straight championship. All of our top stories just 15 minutes away. For more news, go to KTAR.com or the KTAR News app.
Now let's see if the Friday ride is heating up. Live from the Valley Chevy Dealers Traffic Center with John Roller.
Yeah, thank you, LaDonna. Last report, we talked about some slowing on the 347 coming out of Maricopa, and we still have pretty good slowing. We have reports of a crash there. It is dark out there, and of course, that is a 2-lane road there, so slow down. You may see a crash. We might hear something a little bit more coming out of Maricopa, but you do have some slowing approaching Riggs Road. Other than that, only light slowing on the eastbound I-10, still pretty much Friday light. Your slowing starts at about 107th Avenue into downtown Phoenix, looking about 15 minutes on your right end, and only light slowing on the southbound 17th from Camelback to Indian School Road. And again, some light slowing starting to build south of the stack through the Durango curve. On Surface Street, crash stops at Ocotillo and Chandler. John Roller, KTAR News.
Look for highs in the upper 70s all weekend long. It's going to be mostly sunny today, mostly sunny tomorrow, and on Sunday, mostly cloudy. Weather's brought to you by Howard Air. Whether replace or repair, call Howard Air.
And here in Arizona, it's been almost a week straight of protests against President Donald Trump, his policies, his nominees. Protesters are demanding action from Arizona's elected officials. But besides filing lawsuits like AG Chris Mays, what can sympathetic politicians do?
Joining us is Democratic political consultant Stacey Pearson of Lumen Strategy. Stacey, Chris Mays will likely file her third lawsuit against the Trump administration today, but other Democrats have stated they're cooperating with Trump on things like border security. It's a fine line for them to walk, isn't it?
So it's razor thin, that line. Certainly Arizonans want a secure border. We're a border state. We're a red border state. But we also don't want Trump policies to go too far.
So how do you find what you can do as a statewide elected official to fight against these federal policies and fight against the ones that aren't going to get you kicked out of office eventually?
This is a marathon. We're in the second week of the second Trump administration, and we need folks to focus on what matters most, which is registering people to vote, making sure that they're ready to vote. We are, 23 months away from the next major statewide election, and we need people to be prepared. And so, as much as I love a good protest, as anyone does, I need folks to go out to that protest with voter registration cards and make sure that people are getting on the rolls.
You know, it's interesting because you had mentioned Arizona being a red state, and when we were ramping up to the election, border was a huge issue for a lot of voters, Democrat and Republican. So this is something that kind of crossed all lines. You know, when we looked at the thousands of people coming across illegally, it kind of freaked everybody out. And so it seems like Trump has a lot of support from voters. What do protesters want exactly?
It's a good question. I mean, they want to be heard, right? We're talking about fundamental First Amendment freedom of speech. They want to be heard. They want their elected officials to know how upset they are. We need them to do two things at the same time. We certainly make your opinions known. Also, make sure that you're ready to engage in our democracy, which is voting, which is registering to vote, making sure your address is updated, making sure you can get in the game.
So in Washington, you got Senators Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego fighting some Trump nominees, but not even most of them. Is that ticking off Democratic voters? And are they going to start getting harassed in bathrooms and at weddings like, former Senator Kirsten Sinema got?
I certainly hope not. It is. I mean, it is very upsetting to the minority, which are the registered Democrats. Those are my people. We are the smallest party in the state. We are behind both Republicans and independents, and it makes it extraordinarily hard to govern from the minority. And so the only way to really impact change is to win more seats, to take a majority in the House or the Senate, to continue to hold these statewide offices in Arizona.
Entries and was first shown at Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in Arkansas. Once it closes at the Herd, the art will be returned to its owners, both public and private. Joe Ryan, KJZZ News, Phoenix.
And of course, you want to see this story online, some of the pictures from the exhibit at kjzz.org. You are listening to Morning Edition on 91.5.
KJZZ is supported by the Arizona Lottery. You can play to celebrate the end of the week and to uplift your community. Every time you play, you're supporting.
So as you can see, the exit off of the 10 up to the 143 is still undergoing construction. So I can envision it being pretty slow during rush hour. But I just wanted to take a trip through there to see the current status of the construction. And yesterday I wanted to point out that there's like a right here to your right is one apartment complex that stretches an entire block. I think it's almost 100% complete. And then next to it is a huge data center. This was built, I think, started at the beginning of the pandemic. It's called QTS Data Centers. And that thing is pretty massive. I don't know how much power it uses and what companies are using it for data mining, data storage, but it's pretty interesting. It's amazing when you look at who owns some of these huge apartment complexes and even like buildings that are for rent. Like say, if you see a building like where maybe the Bureau of Indian Affairs, do a little digging and figure out who owns that building. Sometimes they're hidden really well with LLCs. Even like the company that's out home trying to trick people into thinking that their solar is part of the grant that was recently announced about like 4 or 5 months ago to provide free solar to so many families on the Hopi Nation. Their advertising and pitches are a little deceiving, but just realize that they are not directly associated with that grant to provide free solar. They are a private company based, I think, out of Gilbert, and they, if you dig, it's Nerd Power or something. You dig